President Lee Jae-myung wrapped up his 60 trip on Friday after holding summit talks with leaders of India and Vietnam to bolster economic and strategic ties, seen as a key to Seoul's push to diversify supply chains and secure critical minerals. U.S. President Donald Trump has downplayed the possibility of a nuclear strike against Iran, while Tehran claims it has begun collecting tolls from ships passing through the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. Petrol and diesel prices have surged past the 2001 mark nationwide, but the South Korean government says there are no immediate concerns over the country's oil supplies for next month. President Lee Jae-myung is on his way back to Korea, wrapping up his 60 two-nation trip to India and Vietnam. On his final day in Hanoi, President Lee and First Lady Gimhae visited a UNESCO-listed landmark with Vietnam's first couple. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
A walk through history for a shared future. President Lee Jae-myung wrapped up his state visit to Vietnam with a stop at the Imperial Citadel of Thang Long, one of Hanoi's most renowned landmarks. At the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Lee and First Lady Kim Hae-kyung were welcomed by Vietnam's top leader To Lam and his spouse Ngo Phong Lee. Lee wore a red and blue striped tie, while Kim appeared in a white jacket and skirt, a combination resembling the colors of South Korea's national flag, the taegukgi. The attire was meant to express national pride while returning Vietnam's warm hospitality with equal courtesy.
The Vietnamese side carefully prepared this program as a gesture of reciprocity, following the warm hospitality shown during General Secretary To Lam's visit to South Korea last year. It is expected to further deepen the friendship and bond between the two leaders.
The citadel, built in the 11th century, reflects architectural influences from China, Vietnam, and France. The two couples toured the site before sharing tea outdoors while enjoying traditional Vietnamese performances. Together, they looked through a photo book documenting President Lee's 4-day visit. The Vietnamese first couple saw off their Korean counterparts at the end of the visit, with Lee and To Lam exchanging a warm embrace. On the same day, the Blue House also revealed the gifts that had been prepared. For General Secretary To Lam, the gifts featured a traditional Korean painting of the mythical creature Hete and a pine tree, symbols of justice and integrity, along with a speaker bearing a caricature of the couple, reflecting his appreciation for classical music. The First Lady was given merchandise from the National Museum of Korea, a beauty device, and a traditional mother-of-pearl box. Lee's office says his state visit this time helped strengthen political trust with Vietnam's new leadership and lay the groundwork for further developing bilateral ties. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Now on to the Middle East crisis. U.S. President Donald Trump has ruled out using nuclear weapons against Iran and said he won't be rushed to end the war as negotiations with Tehran drag on. Kim Bo-kyung has this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday that he would not use a nuclear weapon in the war against Iran. Trump made the remark in answer to a reporter's question at an event focused on healthcare at the White House.
Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
As for the ceasefire and denuclearization talks, Trump said the U.S. has been continuing talks with Iran, but does not even know who is leading the country, saying they are in a state of confusion. When asked how long he is willing to wait until Iran submits a proposal for an agreement, Trump expressed his intention not to rush.
I want to make the best deal. I could make a deal right now. Do you know that if I left right now, we had a tremendous success? It would take them 20 years to rebuild, but I don't want to do that. I want to have it everlasting.
While saying the U.S. has total control of the Strait of Hormuz, he said it will open when the deal is made or something else happens that's very positive. To the possibility that Iran may have reinforced some of its military capabilities during the recent 2-week ceasefire period, he said they could have loaded up a bit during the hiatus. But even so, he claimed Washington would be able to knock any gains out in about 1 day. This comes after Trump, in a warning against Iran, said he had ordered the U.S. Navy to immediately shoot and kill any boat laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, no matter how small the boat may be. Meanwhile, the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel was extended by 3 weeks after a high-level meeting at the White House. This meeting was the second to take place in 9 days following the first high-level talks between the sides in 33 years held earlier this month in Washington, D.C., mediated by the U.S. Secretary of State. Trump said he looked forward to hosting the two leaders of both sides in the near future.
Israel, and we think that the President of Lebanon and the Prime Minister of Israel over the next couple of weeks will be coming here. They've agreed to an additional 3 weeks of no firing, ceasefire, no more firing, let's see.
He added that the U.S. will work with Lebanon to get things straightened out regarding Hezbollah. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Iran says it has begun collecting tolls from ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, with the first revenues already deposited into its central bank. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Iran says it has begun collecting tolls from ships transiting the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, marking a significant step in its effort to tighten control over one of the world's most important energy routes. Parliament Deputy Speaker Hamid Reza Haji Babai said Thursday that the first revenues from transit fees have already been deposited into the country's central bank. Another lawmaker, Ali Reza Salimi, confirmed that vessels are now being charged, though officials did not disclose how many ships have paid so far. Iranian authorities say the fees vary depending on cargo type, volume, and the level of risk posed by each vessel, with Tehran determining both the rates and collection system. The move follows earlier reports, including one by the Wall Street Journal, that Iran had ordered ships to arrange payments in advance through the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, with transitions possibly made in cryptocurrency or Chinese yuan. Lawmakers have also been considering legislation that would formalize the toll system for ships passing through the narrow waterway. Amid the escalating tensions, Iran's leadership is also emphasizing internal unity. According to Iran's state-run IRNA news agency, Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei said divisions among Iran's adversaries are widening, while the country's cohesion is growing stronger. He warned against what he described as foreign media efforts to undermine national stability. In a joint statement, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf stressed that Iran stands united, regardless of political differences, and vowed retaliation against any aggressor. Senior officials echoed that message, calling for solidarity under the leadership as regional tensions remain high and uncertainty continues over potential negotiations with the United States. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In related news, Pope Leo has delivered a strong message against war, warning of civilian deaths and growing global instability amid tensions over in the Middle East. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
Pope Leo says he cannot be in favour of war, urging all sides to return to dialogue amid tensions involving the United States, Iran and Israel. Speaking on Thursday on his return flight to Rome after a four-nation tour of Africa, the pontiff called for renewed diplomatic efforts, warning against further division and violence.
Rather, I would encourage the continuation of dialogue for peace, that all parties participate, that they seek solutions, that they make every effort to promote peace, reduce the threat of war, and respect international law. It is very important that innocent people be protected, which has not been the case in several places.
He acknowledged that efforts to resolve the crisis remain uncertain, with negotiations between Tehran and Washington showing little consistency.
The negotiations themselves are uncertain. One day, Iran says yes, the United States says no, and vice versa. We do not know where this will lead, and this has created a chaotic situation, critical for the global economy.
Turning to the situation inside Iran, the Pope stressed that ordinary civilians are bearing the brunt of the conflict. He added that rather than regime change, the focus should be on preventing further loss of life. Separately, the Pope also condemned the killing of protesters in Iran, after criticism from US President Donald Trump that he had not spoken out strongly enough on the issue. Pope Leo, the first American pope, was slammed by Trump on social media as terrible earlier this month. The Pope has criticized the ongoing war and the US leader's immigration policies. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
National Security Advisor Ri Sung-rak has drawn a clear distinction between the domestic investigation here into e-commerce giant Coupang and the defense commitment shared by South Korea and the U.S. At a briefing on Thursday in Hanoi, he called for security consultations between the two countries to proceed separately. He also said he was in contact with the Republican lawmakers who recently sent a letter regarding Coupang to South Korean ambassador to the U.S. Kang Kyung-hwa. The U.S. has insisted that South Korea's probe into the U.S.-listed company for its massive data leak is a discrimination. Korea's tech-heavy KOSDAQ index soared above the 1,200 mark for the first time in over 25 years. According to the Korea Exchange on Friday, the index closed the trade at 1,203.8. That's up 2.5% from its session on Thursday. The significant milestone, last seen in August 2000, came as semiconductor equipment, material stock, and biotech shares led broad gains across the index. Now, the rally was led by foreign investors who net bought roughly 800 billion won worth of shares. Domestic gasoline and diesel prices have broken through the 2001 threshold. Now, this comes even as the government extends its wholesale price freeze into its fourth consecutive period, and with volatile global oil prices amid the ongoing Middle East situation. Kim Do-yeon has more.
As of Friday afternoon, the national average for diesel reached 2,000.531 per liter, crossing the 2001 mark for the first time since July 2022. Gasoline is also up, averaging 2,006.451 nationally and 2,043.941 in the capital, Seoul. To combat these rising costs, the government on Friday initiated its fourth petroleum price ceiling. This keeps wholesale supply prices frozen at 1,934 won for gasoline and at 1,923 won for diesel. With this fourth review, wholesale caps have now been maintained for 6 consecutive weeks.
While international product prices for gasoline and diesel have fallen by 8% and 14%, respectively, there's still instability in the Middle East. The government believes it is desirable to share the burden to relieve the public, considering petroleum products account for 4.66% of consumer prices. We needed to preemptively block inflationary pressure.
While the government cited prior drops in international benchmarks to justify freezing the wholesale ceiling rather than lowering it, global markets remain highly volatile. In fact, on Thursday in the U.S., Brent crude futures closed at $105.07 per barrel, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate reached $95.85 amid ongoing geopolitical escalations. Experts note the committee's decision reflects a preference for immediate market stability.
The fact that the current prices have been frozen is not too surprising. Because the international oil prices have fallen a bit since after the third decision by the committee. So the fact that the price has been frozen perhaps indicates that the committee is reflecting on the fact that the prices had fallen and they want stability in prices to continue.
Currently, oil importers and refineries continue to absorb the financial losses from the wholesale caps, and the government has not yet provided estimates for state reimbursement. with international price fluctuations typically taking 2 to 3 weeks to reach local gas stations. The full impact of the recent crude surge has yet to be realized. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, the Blue House says there are no immediate concerns over Korea's oil supply for next month. Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Won-sik told reporters on Friday that the country has secured 74.6 million barrels of crude oil for May, about 87% of last year's monthly average imports. He added that Korea has reduced its reliance on Middle Eastern oil from 69% to 56% by bringing in additional supplies from the Americas and Africa. Kang also said efforts are underway to diversify shipping routes, noting that nearly 24 million barrels from Saudi Arabia and 16 million from the UAE are set to arrive in May through routes that bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Amid the Middle East crisis, Koreans panic bought trash bags over fears that naphtha shortages would hit production of this essential item. Though the situation has since calmed down, it hinted at the need to transition into recycling and reusing trash bags. An Sung-jin has this report.
The ongoing situation in the Middle East has had unexpected effects here at home in Korea, one of them being supplies of trash bags selling out. Nearly 2 months into the conflict, I visited local supermarkets to see how the supply situation is unfolding on the ground. While trash bags are now available in more places, including this residential area in Seoul, the once easy-to-come-by items sparked panic buying at one point. Some stores had once limited purchases to single rolls only, with customers coming in asking for stock buys.
Now we have enough, so there's no limit. But when people came to hoard trash bags, we had a set number.
This wasn't an isolated case.
Since the Middle East situation, the sales of trash bags have surged, especially compared to last year.
The one shortage traced back to disruptions in resource supply as tensions in the Middle East strained global energy markets. And in times like these, alternatives for a more reliable future are no longer optional, but essential. For more than 20 years, this company in Gyeongsang-namdo province has been recycling plastic waste into trash bags. Today, with the naphtha shortage making the headlines, their once overlooked work is now in the spotlight. Discarded plastic from industrial packaging, greenhouse vinyl, and even agricultural waste like rice straw coverings all come together at this factory. Lee, an experienced veteran in the industry for around 40 years, would sort these raw recycled pellets and melt them to transform waste into new trash bags. Even the printed labels on the bags are designed with sustainability in mind, made from soluble ink that minimizes their environmental impact. The finished products are delivered to around 10 regions across the country, supporting local supply chains during a time of strain. For Yi, the work has never been about profit.
Recycling plastic this way is something that should have been done a long time ago. Now it feels like the world is finally catching up.
Lawmakers also stress their efforts to accelerate the transition to renewable energy.
The transition will require a more structured legislative and policy framework. We aim to expand into renewables by securing the necessary budget.
The global supply uncertainties continue. Small, steady efforts like these may prove to be a path toward a more resilient and sustainable future. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, a number of visits to public libraries broke past 230 million in 2025. That is up 2.8% on year. Relevant authorities say this upward trend marks the fourth straight year of annual growth and linked the phenomenon to libraries serving as multifunctional cultural centers. Accordingly, the number of public libraries has also risen, with 1,328 libraries in Korea as of last year, up 2.5% on year. Korea's sports minister has pledged expanded investment in grassroots sports, calling it key to the country's long-term competitiveness. Choi Hee-hyung on a Friday attended the opening ceremony of the 2026 Korea Sport for All Festival in Gimhae City, Gyeongsang-namdo Province. The four-day event, which began on Thursday, will run through Sunday, is expected to bring together some 20,000 participants from across the country, competing in 41 different sports. Che also met with regional sports officials to discuss ways to further promote public participation in athletics. He also visited competition venues, cheering on athletes and highlighting the role of everyday sports in improving public health and reducing medical costs. A week after the wolf named Neukgu was safely captured following its escape from a zoo in the central city of Daejeon, the animal has continued to gain popularity and attention. For more on this, we turn to our Park Konu here in the studio. Welcome back, Konu.
Great to be here.
So Konu, Neukgu's been quite the hot topic this past week, hasn't he?
Yes, so Neukgu, everyone's so obsessed about this wolf. But before I tell you more, let's first talk about Neukgu itself. The name is a combination of Neukde, meaning wolf in Korean, and Gu, which means 9, as he was the 9th born among its siblings. Since its escape and capture, Neukgu has continued to draw significant attention. But before we get into the details, let's first take a look at this furry friend.
Videos showing Neukgu eating a special meal of beef and chicken as it began to regain its strength gained millions of views in the space of just a couple of days, drawing thousands of likes, comments, and shares. However, O-World, the zoo responsible for the wolf, has suspended posting new videos, saying updates will resume once Neukgu has fully recovered. The animal is now reported to be in stable condition after being captured safely and undergoing surgery to remove a fishing needle from its stomach a week ago. As the capture drew massive attention, public interest has continued, fueling a wave of online memes. The buzz has also led to bakeries selling Neukgu-themed desserts and pastries, modeled after the animal.
We first launched it on the 18th, the day after Neukgu was captured. Now, people line up 1 to 2 hours in advance to buy. We're selling out hundreds of them each day.
But behind the viral popularity, concerns are also growing over zoo safety. Some experts say stronger preventive measures are needed to ensure such incidents don't happen again.
There needs to be a process of identifying and addressing gaps in current standards and turning them into clear guidelines. For dangerous animals, maintaining a 2-person keeper system is especially important. Daily checklists should also be introduced to inspect facility wear and tear, as well as the animal's health and behavior.
An O-World official said the zoo is set to undergo an inspection by local authorities next week, adding that facility checks and repairs will be completed during that time. The zoo remains temporarily closed due to the incident, and the official told Arirang News that no reopening date has yet been set, despite some reports of a reopening in early May. With Neukgu's popularity continuing to grow, and more people hoping to see the animal in person, all eyes are now on when the zoo will reopen.
Well, Kanu, now that Neukgu is back home safe and sound, calls are growing for tighter zoo safety measures, even with the government also stepping in to take action, right?
That's right. So the Ministry of Climate, Energy and Environment says it will overhaul zoo safety management systems and animal welfare standards following the O-World wolf escape. The ministry announced that this week that it will conduct inspections of all 121 zoos across the country, focusing on measures to prevent animal escapes and overall safety conditions for visitors. It also plans to expand its zoo licensing system, as currently only 10 zoos have been officially licensed under the system introduced in 2023. The government aims to have more than 90% of zoos licensed by the end of next year. And to support this, the number of inspectors responsible for reviewing licensing requirements will increase over the next 2 years. Meanwhile, experts say changes are also needed in how zoos operate their programs, considering animal welfare.
Zoos that continue to offer experiences such as touching or feeding animals cannot be considered good zoos. Zoos should focus on educational programs, such as explaining animal behavior while using audiovisual materials. Involving visitors in enrichment activities that help animals display more natural behaviors is a good example.
Indeed. Well, Kanu, with the Neukgu emerging as a nationwide sensation, some are asking whether this could be leveraged into promoting both the city and the zoo.
That's also right. So local authorities are considering turning Neukgu into one of the city's most popular mascots. And however, some experts stress that safety improvement should also come first.
Animals should be raised in safe and hygienic environments, but promoting the zoo before those conditions are fully improved wouldn't be appropriate. But this movement could raise public awareness about animal welfare and living conditions, and ultimately contribute to creating safer and more hygienic environments for animals.
The professor added that this could be an opportunity to promote the city, much like the popularity of the panda Fubao, which drew large numbers of visitors to the theme park where it used to live years ago.
Safety first for animals as well. Now, Konu, thanks for coming in tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Spring is really in full swing now. We're looking at a mild and pleasant weekend ahead, with afternoon temperatures running above seasonal averages. It's going to feel quite warm during the day, and overall we'll see plenty of sunshine. In Seoul, day-to-night temperature swings will be around 15 degrees, so please be mindful of your outfit and dress in layers. As for nationwide weather, we're looking at mostly clear skies across the country tomorrow, and air quality should stay in good shape as well. Dry weather advisories have expanded to more areas nationwide. With dry air and some strong winds, the risk of wildfires increases significantly, so be extra careful outdoors. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 10 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at 7 degrees, Busan at 11 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 25 degrees, Chuncheon, Daegu, Gwangju all topping out at 25 degrees as well. Throughout the weekend, Seoul will stay mostly sunny with highs around 25 degrees. But rain is expected to move into central regions late Monday night into early Tuesday.
That's all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.